good to be here with you all. All right. After Mark, I don't know what I'm here for, but. So there's an old Jewish proverb. It says, before every person, there goes a messenger, an angel, announcing, behold the image of God. The guy in our story, he wanders the cemetery. Every night, the townspeople hear him shrieking among the tombs. When they're quick enough, they might catch him, shackle him, drag him back into town. But still, they can't contain the crazy. He escapes every time. Trailing broken chains behind him, he wanders wild, tearing at his skin till it bleeds. Mind, body, spirit, and pain. If he has a name, nobody knows it. If he has a family or a story, no one remembers it. If he has a soul inside his tormented body, no one looks for it. No one bothers to see it till Jesus does. This story from Luke, the Gerasene demonic, I think it's called, it's a tough one for us 21st century Christians because it's full of weird details. Chatty demons, suicidal pigs, miraculous healing. Kind of sounds like a bad comedy or maybe a bad horror film. So how does this ancient exorcism story relate to us? How does it matter to us? And how is it good news? Well, a lot of energy has been spent in the last few decades trying to address these things, the things that we modern-day Christians find weird about this story. Like, was the man really possessed by demons, or was he just mentally ill? If the demons were real, why did Jesus negotiate with them? Why did he even show them mercy? Why did the pigs have to die to secure this guy's healing? Didn't Jesus care about the pigs? Or didn't he care about the people who owned the pig herd? Like their whole livelihood went off a cliff. Real questions, right? But it sort of feels like that's a lot of energy down a rabbit hole. If we just focus on these weird parts of the story, it prevents us from maybe seeing how it can matter to us here and now. So first, I think the story matters because it begins precisely where we ourselves have to begin. With that question, what is your name? Jesus asked when he first encounters that possessed man. Now remember, it was the man who approached Jesus first, and not to ask for help, but instead to push Jesus away. Maybe to scare Jesus away. In all likelihood, it wasn't like a peaceful approach. It was probably kind of feral. But nonetheless, Jesus asked the guy for his name. And by doing so, it brings the man back to himself a little bit. Brings him back to his humanity, to his beginnings, to his identity as a child beloved of God, made in the image of God, no matter what ailed him. What is your name? It seems like a simple question, but it's kind of important. It's more intimate, more than a courtesy. It's really asking, who are you? So what would happen if you allowed Jesus to ask you this question? Or what would happen if we asked it of one another? Maybe that person standing on the street asking for money, who's not so dissimilar from the guy in today's reading. What if we asked it of ourselves? Beneath all the labels, beneath all the pretense, who are you when only God is looking? Who were you before you got caught up in the machine of this world and all it entails? Do you even remember? So Jesus begins where we too have to begin, with an honest question and identifying ourselves and one another. It's a first step in being honest with one another and our relationship with God. So who are you? What is your name? Second, This story is meaningful because it tells us a real truth about the human condition. Legion, the man says when Jesus asks his name. My name is Legion. A multitude, a swarm. I think a Roman legion is something like 5,000. Why? Well, because Luke's gospel tells us many demons torment him. In other words, the source of what ails him is countless. The assault on his mind and body comes from all the directions, braided together in this one guy. So perhaps it doesn't matter how we choose to explain these demons. Whatever language we use, biblical, medical, doesn't matter. Because what we know for sure is whatever this man was struggling with stripped him of his agency, his sanity, his dignity, and his community. It kept him in isolation. It made him unimportant. It encouraged him to harm himself, deadened his soul, made him live in torment. Really, it deprived him of everything that mattered. It sent him down a path of self-destruction. Does this sound familiar? Because the truth is, what ails us, each of us as human beings, is legion, many. What haunts us has many faces, many names. We are all, every one of us, susceptible to these same forces that silence us, that take us away from our true selves, that separate us from God and one another. I mean, for some of us, it's mental illness. For some of us, it's addiction, alcohol, drugs, wealth, ego, whatever vice it may be. Some of us are captive to overwork, captive to our phones, prone to bitterness, holding on to jealousy. Whatever it is, we're caught up in destructive cycle after destructive cycle with our own need to be right. Some of us are tied to systems of injustice that stretch back so many centuries, we can't even begin to imagine something different. Some of us experience our skin color, our accent, our gender as magnets for other people's hatred. Some of us suffer illness that cross boundaries of medicine and culture. Some of us have just simply forgotten there's a messenger that goes before us, proclaiming, "Behold the image of God." So if we expand the definition of possession to include anything that keeps us away from living in the way God desires, then this story isn't a weird ancient oddity. It's all around us. It's our everyday reality. So that's the bad news, right? We're still not to where it's good news. The good news is that's not where the story ends. The good news is this story tells us exactly where reconciliation comes from. It does so without hesitation or apology. When the healed man sees Jesus, he falls down before him. The townspeople come running to see what's going on, and they find the man, as Luke's gospel says, sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed in his right mind. So healing and restoration, in other words, comes at the feet of Jesus. It lies in yielding our power, our desires, to the one who has the ultimate power to cast out what torments us. It's because there's no power in this world, in this universe, that can top the healing, restorative, resurrecting power of Jesus. Because even the most destructive demons we can come up with are nothing for the God we believe in. But is this the story we offer to the people who walk through our doors on Sunday? Is this the story we tell one another? Is this a story we even believe anymore? Or is the long haul of life, with its stretches of unanswered prayer, all too frequent grief, loss, doubt, has it worn out our souls, watered down our belief in that claim? The problem is, the story is glorious, but it's not complete for us yet. We live, as Lutherans, in that uncomfortable tension, the already and the not yet, both and. So yes, Jesus has defeated death. Jesus is stronger than all that we can conjure up. Yes, we look to God for healing. The Gospels tell us this is true. We believe that promise. But no, the battle's not over yet. The pigs haven't gone off the cliff in our lives. The freedom we seek, it's not always within our grasp. But it doesn't mean the story isn't true. It just means we have so much more to look forward to. It means we hold on to our hope that's grounded in what we already know Jesus has done, in the power we already hear in the Gospels. It means we have every reason to, like the man, go out and share the good news with confidence right now. And if only we could stop there. But Luke goes a little further in his gospel story, and we have to too. The fourth reason we should embrace this story, because it illustrates an unpleasant truth about humanity. When the townspeople see that demon-possessed man is healed, they don't rejoice. They're not relieved. They don't show gratitude or awe. Instead, they recoil in fear and tell Jesus to go away. What does that mean? Well, maybe it means we human beings prefer to stick with the demons we know, rather than imagine something different, something we can't understand, something that might be new. Maybe it means we need to make someone bad so we can feel good. Maybe it means the shackles and chains that bind us are nothing but our own human creation. They're weapons we yield to hurt one another. Maybe it means we're too comfortable settling for tolerance instead of challenging ourselves to really love one another. Maybe it means the gospel doesn't always bring an easy peace. It brings upheaval, messing with our moral categories, our economic comforts, our social structures, in a way we might find offensive. Maybe it means this resurrection story of Jesus sometimes comes along, kicks us in the butt so hard we too tell God to leave us alone. Because maybe we'd rather just stay in the known, no matter how awful, rather than imagine the possibility of something new. This story ends with Jesus commissioning the healed man not to go with him, but to stay where he is and share his story with the townspeople, the ones who feared him, shunned him, trapped him, shackled him. And I have to admit, this makes me laugh, because isn't that just like God? To choose the very people we consider the most unholy, the unclean, the unredeemable, the unworthy, to remind us we are all the image of God. That's God all over. So here then is really a story about us, our truest selves, about our resistance to our God. It's a story about Jesus who finds each of us naked in the tombs, clothes us with dignity, reminds us to behold the image of God, and turns us into storytellers who can help heal the world too. So maybe this weird old story is good news after all. Amen.